All right. I think we can start now. I think we can start now. Yeah. Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us on this wonderful online meeting. Like I always said, my name is Mr. Usman Gay, the Community Development Worker for Family Voice Peterborough. I'm here with my colleagues, Judith, the parent rep, and Ramu Dawu, the administration. All right. Our main purpose of this meeting today is to talk about preparing for adulthood. Yeah, this is a very, very, very important topic. Yeah, before I go to that, I would like to remind everyone that we will be recording our online session today and can be shared on our Facebook and how to call it, YouTube pages. Yeah, and thank you so much for that. Yeah, we got our wonderful speaker called Elizabeth Sullivan. Elizabeth, pardon me if I did not pronounce your surname very well. So the Sen leads post-16 preparation for adulthood, special educational needs and inclusion services from Peterborough City Council. So our speaker today, Elizabeth, will be discussing about what those preparing for adulthood entail, or I can put it this way, what does preparing for adulthood mean for young people with Ahcp, that's Educational Healthcare Plan. All right. After the meeting, after the presentation, my colleague Judith will be doing the closing remark. Then from before that, there will be a question. The floor will be open to all of you to ask questions. After the questions, then closing remark for my colleague Judith. So can I kindly call our speaker, Elizabeth? Elizabeth, over to you now.
Thank you, Usman. First of all, I'm not used to doing Zoom meetings, so can I just ask if everybody can see and hear me?
Do you want us to share your presentation? Yeah.
Yes. Can we just check that everybody can hear me, because
yes, Elizabeth, we hear you very well.
And is it loud enough?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Very loud.
We can hear you, but we can't see you.
Yeah.
Are we able to put me on camera quick, Usman, so that I always like to, I think it's important that people see what I look like before I'll be taken off camera once I'm doing the presentation. So
you can click on the camera so that people will be able to see you on in front of you. If you check the screen, there is a place that is a camera. Like if you click that one, then you'll be able to, people will be able to see you. You know where the like
says start video. Start video.
Oh, start video. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, got you.
Yeah.
See you.
Am I there? Am I there?
Yeah, finally we can see you, Elizabeth. Well done. Thank you.
Okay. Hi everybody. So as Usman just said, my name is Elizabeth Sullivan-Ash and I am the SEN lead for post-16 and preparation for adulthood. And I'm delighted to be invited along to Family Voice to present this and to tell you all about preparation for adulthood, which is my passion. And so I'll turn the video off and we'll start the presentation. And just to let you know that because our system doesn't allow us really to use Zoom, we normally use Teams. I've sent over the presentation to Family Voice, so they're going to present it and I'll just talk through it. Is that okay, Usman?
Yeah, thank you so much. Ramu, my colleague, will share it.
Thank you. Yeah, let's hope this goes okay.
Ramu, can you please do us a favor and just share the presentation?
Okay. One moment, let me just get it through. Sorry, I had it on my screen, but I've just lost it. I'm trying to.
Judith, can you resend it to Ramu if you have it now?
I've got it.
All right, okay.
I've got it. I'm just doing it now.
Thank you.
Right, I've got it. I just need to go back in there.
All right.
That one. Yeah. Can you see it?
Not yet.
Okay. Can you see it now?
Yeah. Thank you. I can see it. Elizabeth, can you see it now?
I can see it. Yeah. Can everybody else see it?
Yes.
Your thumbs up, and then we can see. Thank you.
Cheers.
Lovely.
Thank you, Ramu.
Now we can go from, we can leave it like that, or we can go where it says slideshow and start it. Is everybody happy with this format?
I'm just looking at.
Yeah. Anyway, me, I don't mind, but it's depend on the. I think I have to ask you others. Are you all happy with the format, or do you want us to increase it?
I think people are happy.
No, but
it's always better to have a slideshow because you can see on all the screen. It's much better then.
If you go up to slideshow at the top.
Oh, no. Sorry. Slideshow. No. I cannot see on my screen here.
Can you see home? And then it's got insert, draw, design, transitions. Where it's got slideshow,
yeah.
If you click that, it should say from the beginning.
Yeah.
Not. No, ignore that. Just put not now.
Okay.
And then go from beginning, right on the left-hand side.
Okay, from beginning, yeah. Is that better?
Yeah, thank you.
That is fantastic. Thank you.
Much better. Much better.
Well done. Right, shall I kick off then? Now, my understanding is we have 1.5 hours.
Yeah, don't worry. Take your time.
Okay, great. Yeah. So this is just the introductory slide, and it's the Seldom Heard Community Forum. And what does preparation for adulthood mean for young people with an Ahcp? And that's what this session's all about. Thank you. If you could go to the next slide.
Yeah.
Thank you. So just so that you're clear about what today's session is going to be about, we'll do some introductions from all of you because preparation for adulthood is a big topic. And if I can get an idea of the sort of focus you want from it, when we go through the slides, which there are quite a few, I'll know which slides to sort of go over quickly and which ones to focus on more. I'm going to do an outline of what, now PfA is a shortened version of preparation for adulthood. I'm going to give you some examples of preparation for adulthood outcomes, which you might find in your child or young person's education, health and care plan. I'm going to give you some links and I'm going to use and show you how to use some really useful tools and resources to help you as parents or professionals with preparation for adulthood around their education healthcare plan and throughout their lives. Then I'm going to just demonstrate how this is something we also consult with young people about to make sure that we've got everything right and we know young people's views. And I'm going to show you, and actually with that, when you see it, you'll see actually it helps inform all of us about what preparation for adulthood means. And then a question and answer session. Now, if for whatever reason you think you'd like to have a question while while I'm presenting. I know on Teams you can put your hand up. Now, I don't know what the format is for Zoom for putting your hand up. So if you could you clarify what that is, please?
You can put your hand up. If you click on reactions on the bottom right of your screen, you have an option to raise hand.
Great. If anybody wants to do that, then when I come to the end of the slide, I'll say, are we okay to go on, or are there any questions? And if you could just prompt me to see if you know if anybody's, you know, reacted with their hand, I'd be really grateful. Thank you. So if we could go on to the next slide, please.
I think Snow raise her hand.
Yeah, I just wanted to show how it looks like.
All right, okay, that's fine. Thank you.
So here's the introductory session. So rather than you listening to me for a long time, I think it's really important to introduce yourself and tell me how you'd like today's session to help you. It could be to do with your young person or your child. You could be a professional. So are you able to help me out with just introducing the names so people can then introduce themselves to me, and sort of try and tell me what focus you'd like me to focus on? Sort of if you've got, if you have a child or a young person that you'd, you know, of an age, just let me know what the age. You don't need to give me any details about them, just really the age of the young person that you'd like me to focus on. Really, that would really help, and perhaps why you've come to the session, something like that. So as I said, I've introduced myself. So if we could, we've got somebody called Lou Scott. She's a parent of a child. Oh, it's gone down. So Lou, are you able to talk?
Oh, it's Lou.
I think the chat's gone off screen.
So Lou is saying she's a parent of a child with Ahcp who is nearly 14. So she wants to know what resources were available to help her.
Yeah,
thanks, Lou. So she's obviously on earphones and she's at work trying to do two things at once. So well done, you. Julia, did you want to talk, or did you want me to read out? Oh, she's multitasking as well. So Julia's here, her daughter is 18. So we've got a 14 and an 18-year-old. Yeah, multitasking, Lou said.
Hi.
Julia, hi.
I'm Julia. Oh, sorry, where is my video? What do you want to ask me about my daughter? Sorry.
Oh, you've explained it in the chat, so that's fine. So you've got a daughter of 18?
Yeah.
And where is she at the moment?
She's at school, the last class, and she will go to college.
So she's transitioning this year?
Yeah, we're thinking about which one.
Okay, lovely. Thank you for letting me know. Nice to meet you, Julia.
Nice to meet you too. Thank you.
I've got a Tanya.
Yeah, hi. I'm just really thinking about my daughter Precious, who's got a diagnosis of ADHD and autism, but she hasn't got an Ahcp plan, so I'm a bit concerned about that because she's transitioning this year to college from secondary school. She's 18.
What age is she? 18?
She's 16. 16.
Got you.
Yeah,
lovely. So it's the older age group so far. That's useful. Let me see who else there is I can see. Judita, have we done Judita?
Judita, do you have any questions?
Not now. It's just I would like, Elizabeth, you just to explain for people, for parent carriers, what the best options is and how what kind of help they can get, and all sorts of things like that.
Okay.
Yeah, there's one also. I don't know what is Julia. He said, my daughter is 18 with
Usman, we already talked with Julia.
Okay, sorry.
Judita, what age is your child or young person?
My son, he's 24 years old. He's doing university studies, PhD, and at the moment he is okay, and he has no Ahcp plan.
Okay, lovely. I've got Kirsty. Are you just here as an interpreter?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Jamie, I've got Jamie.
Hi everybody, I'm actually here kind of as an observer. I work for Contact and they give out grants through the Pears Foundation, and Pears have given a grant to allow workshops like this to take place.
Oh, fabulous.
And so I just kind of so I can report back and say, this is what's being done with the money and they need to give us more money, basically. So,
well done.
I do actually have a child with disabilities myself who is 13. However, we're not in Peterborough area and she's not transitioning or anything soon, but it's all stuff I think I'm going to find most of it quite useful anyway.
You will, yeah, I can guarantee you'll find it. Well, I hope you will find it useful. Scott, have we done Lou? Yeah, we've done multi-work family voice. Peterborough. Dan, I've got Dan.
Hi, Elizabeth. This is Dan Harris. I'm the father of an 8-year-old non-verbal autistic boy who's in a specialist autistic provision in Peterborough. I recognise it's many years away from PfA and post-16 education, but I'm really concerned about the lack of specialist educational provision post-16 in Peterborough. So I think I need to plan far ahead. I'm kind of,
yeah. Dan, I'm gonna say that PfA starts from birth. This is what you'll learn. So you'll learn a lot.
I'm absolutely aware of that. I was just alluding to the fact of the concern that I and a number of parents have around children who are in autistic specialist provision, and then at 16 they go to inappropriate provision, which is mainstream. So that's my big concern.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Well, it doesn't cut. Well, I'll do my best to send you something or allude to the post-16 offer actually, Dan. But it's mostly about PfA today. But certainly, you know, I think did you say it was your son? He's going to be the youngest. So I'll just
8-year-old son. Yeah.
Yeah. I'll focus on 8-year-old plus and zoom through the early years. That's really now. Have I missed anybody out here?
Yes, I was supposed to. I'm Ramu, I'm the administrator at Family Voice Peterborough, and I have got a 15-year-old on the spectrum. She's turning 16 in a couple of weeks. Yeah, so I am attending the session as well, not only as Family Voice, but as a parent carer.
Fabulous, thank you. And can anybody help me out, see if
Hi there. My name is Mohammed. My perspective of being here today, first of all, thank you very much for hosting and facilitating and delivering here, is to look at the acute issues we have with minority communities. In my case, the Muslim faith communities, which would be from ethnicity point of view, the Pakistani, Bangladeshi communities, who probably aren't accessing services for their children if they do have certain debilitating issues to do with their mental or physical health. So my standing really is to just information, really, just to see what you've got to share with us, which I'm sure will be very valuable, and to enhance my understanding of what provision there is out there and how I can support people as an imam and a mental health chaplain in Cambridgeshire, Peterborough
fabulous.
And Bedfordshire. Yeah,
yeah, fabulous. Well done. Yeah, thank you. And I'll try and give you as many resources as I can to help you.
Brilliant. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
Is there anybody? Terry, have we spoken to you?
Who?
Terry.
Hi, yeah, no, you haven't yet. So, hi, I'm Terry. I work with ADIS, which is an organisation that works with all ages with ADHD. So I'm hoping to bring services into Peterborough. So I'm really interested in sort of like in finding out and becoming better informed through you. So how to support.
Absolutely, yeah. Share
people.
These resources as widely as you can.
Yeah. 100%, yeah. So yeah, very happy to be here. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So we've got have I missed anybody out? Tanya, have we had you?
Yeah, we had a.
Okay. Have I missed anybody?
I didn't speak yet. Hello.
Yeah, Suno. Yeah, Suno.
Yeah,
sorry.
I'm Snow. Well, my daughter, she'll turn 17 next month. The younger daughter, the older, she lives in Lithuania. She's 23. But I'm here as a representative of Lithuanian community, and I'm interested in the situation in overall, because I want to pass the information to Lithuanian community translated into Lithuanian. So thank you.
Pleasure. Yeah, so it looks as if we've got a mix of parents, and we've got a mix of professionals who just want wider knowledge. So hopefully you'll find this session useful to you. So thank you to everybody. If we could go to the next slide, please. So the first thing I want to do is to just introduce you to the term of preparation for adulthood. And on the right-hand side, we've got this purple sort of picture, and this is, I'd like you to sort of have a look at that, because anything to do with preparation for adulthood comes from legislation or statutory ruling called the Code of Practice, which was set up in 2014. And it's legislation around special educational needs and disabilities. And Chapter 8 of the Code of Practice is in relation to preparing for adulthood, how a young person, how through this process we can help a young person prepare for adulthood. And I'm going to give you sort of the boring bit now, which is what the Code of Practice states. And it states that everyone working with children and young people with SEND across education, and that includes the early years at schools, colleges and 16 to 19 academies, health and social care professionals. So that's an Ahcp, so it's education, health and social care. To support children and young people with SEND to prepare for adult life and help them to go on to achieve the best outcomes in employment, independent living, health and community participation. And this on the right-hand side is a link to an outcomes tool, which I think would be really useful to you as parents and as professionals to use this tool. I'm going to go through how you use this tool throughout this presentation, because it's a big document. And, you know, sometimes if somebody shows me what to do, I know what to do with it. I'm going to give you some pretty shocking statistics about young people with SEND and their outcomes. So it says it's to try and support and help them achieve in 4 areas of employment, independent living, community inclusion. That means being part of their community and have a presence in their community. And it also means about making friends and having good health. Now, the statistics around employment for young people with SEND are quite shocking, and they're quite shocking, and they have not improved over time. In fact, over time, they've actually gone down. So the statistics on young people with SEND going into paid employment, that is where they're actually paid a salary for what they do, and it can be full-time, part-time, whatever, but it has to be paid, is shockingly low. It's 6%. This last 2.5 years, it's gone down to below 6%. Now, I haven't had the recent statistics about how COVID has impacted employment for young people with SEND, but it certainly has. So I'd imagine the next time any statistics are produced, it will be even lower, which is shocking. So we have to try and support young people into employment pathways. The next section is to do with independent living, and it's about how young people can be introduced to how they might live once they leave their parental home. And that's making them aware of what is on offer. And for parents, it's about that big worry when you've got a child with SEND is, you know how much you do for them. What happens when you're not around? Because we don't live forever. What happens when they are your age? I'm sure that's a massive worry for you. So it's about understanding how we can support them as they grow and through their Ahcp into understanding and having it as an independent life as they possibly can. And the next section is about community inclusion, and that's to do with how young people can have a presence in their community, and that can be going to groups, it can be having a voice in their community, it can be just. And the most important thing here is about friendships, I think. A lot of young people with SEND have difficulties actually making and keeping friends, and need to actually be taught the skills that might be quite natural for us. But for some young people with SEND, it comes, they need to be actually taught how to make friends and how to sustain friendships, as well as being part of their community and going to groups and how accessible those groups are. And lastly, it's about good health. And it's about how to maintain their good health. And this is where the really shocking and sad statistic is that a lot of young people with SEND have a much lower life expectancy. Now, take aside the life expectancy that might come because of their special educational needs or disability, anything underlying, take aside that, and whatever that might give to their life expectancy, it's mostly because they don't understand, and they die of things, they die in ways that are preventable, and such as things as diabetes, obesity, constipation is one, cancer, and they're things where they don't know how to approach and explain when they're not feeling well. And for the statistic there is they can be between 20, depending on whether they're male or female, they can be their life expectancy can be reduced by between 20 and 30 years, which is quite shocking. So we're trying to address that through the Preparation for Adulthood agenda on health. If we could go on to the next slide. So there's 4 areas. There are the 4 areas for preparation for adulthood. And if you notice, none of those are education, but it's through education that we can help young people understand those 4 areas and help parents. Now, there's a tool that I've just shown you about how you would plan your future life and what in practice preparation for adulthood means. So it means possibly going into higher education or employment, independent living, people having choice, freedom in their lives, accommodation, living arrangements, including supported living, participating in society, having friends and contributing to it, being as healthy as possible. And I can't actually see, hold on, I've got something that's blocking, oh, I can see it now. The Code of Practice actually says that being supported towards greater independence and employability can be life transforming for those with SEND. And this support needs to start early and centre around the child or young person's own aspirations, interests and needs. And all professionals working with them should share high aspirations and help them to achieve their ambitions. Now, as well as professionals, I think that should read in the Code of Practice, professionals and parents, because you have aspirations for your child or young person, and it's about making sure that parents have high enough aspirations and help with all the other professionals around them to achieve their ambitions. And there's a really helpful tool which is called Planning My Future Life, which I'm just going to link there. So if you get this PowerPoint, you can link on that, and it's a lovely sort of very user-friendly way of how some questions you can ask or work with young people, and parents and professionals can look at how that sort of can be approached with a young person and a young person with SEND or to make it friendly. So that's just a really useful tool. Can we have the next slide, please? And it's a programme based on the evidence of what works to support children to have good lives and move into adulthood with jobs, independent friends and good health. And as I said before, it starts at the early years, and I'm going to show you how some of the things that, you know, you think might be just general things, we classify as preparing for adulthood. It's common sense stuff. But I'm going to pose a question to you now, because this is, you know, when you look back at your own background, and we're all adults now, if somebody asked you who prepared you for adulthood in a way that we are, you know, trying to do it as a programme, and it's written in the Code of Practice and legislation, you know, how would you answer that? And I'm just going to open the floor, and if you put your hand up and try and give me an explanation of what that might have meant to you, you know, are you able to recognise it, that who prepared you in those 4 areas: employment, independent living, being part of your community, and, you know, maintaining good health? Was there anybody that there was a formal programme, or, you know, can you actually honestly say who prepared you for it, or how that happened?
I think I'll go after Jamie. I think Jamie's got a hand up.
I was just going to say my parents and teachers were the main influences.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with you. Now, with me, I didn't have any professionals around me apart from my teachers. But there are some young people who have other professions, you know, to support them. So, and that's where there's a difference. But could you actually then say, well, they employed me for, you know, they helped me with, you know, knowing how to get a job, you know, independent living, they might have shown me how to put the washing machine on and cook and things like that. Did they teach you how to make friends?
That's a really good point. Probably didn't show me how to make friends. It was more the practical side. They helped me get my mum helped me get my first job, and, you know, they taught me to cook and how to, like you say, use washing machine and stuff like that. But the social side, not so much. I don't know. I can't.
Yeah, and I'm just wondering, did anybody, you know, when you turn 16, and, you know, at 16 you have to make your own doctor's appointments, did anybody sort of say to you, you know, this is how you speak to a doctor, this is, you know, when you go in for your appointments, blah, blah, blah. Did anybody?
No, if I can just mention, I'm conscious Tanya's got a hand up as well.
Okay.
It depends what era you're referring to, in all fairness. I mean, I'm from the 70s. I was born 1974 in Pakistan, came here in 75. I'm 47, so I've been here for 45 years. So my schooling, as in nursery, juniors, high school, is all in this country. So I've been, you know, man and child, as it were. Back in the day, no, my parents taught me what they could, which of course, within the confines of the language and all the rest of it, the barriers that we had. But fast forwarding, I think, as opposed to just speaking historically, because I want to keep it current, because I have, you know, grown up children, you know, 2 of them at university, well, one's postgraduate and my daughter is also studying. Do they have that life skills, money skills, social skills, in terms of, does this come through the education system? I've got to say, no, not at all. Not at all. You know, in terms of how to open up a bank account, how to save money in life. Yes, some elements of teaching will help you with that, very minute. So I suppose, without being too critical, life skills, how to choose good friends, good company, majority of that is lacking in the national curriculum. So as parents, in this case, as I said, I'm speaking about my era, a lot of it, and I take pride and privilege in doing it, me and my missus had to do it, which is fine. But we also have our onus within the government setup of the system that we're here to look after the young and all the rest of it. And none of this costs money, by the way. No, not really, because they could be factored in rather as part of the education system, that this is your economics hour, your social hour, or so you look at this or whatever. I mean, there's so much that could be said. So without sounding like a pessimist, largely the answer to your question, other than little, you know, moments of delight and glamour here and there, largely the current education setup is not conducive to help our youngsters be ready for life. Definitely not. Hence, we have knife crime, and I'm not just in my area in Bedfordshire, up and down the country, because kids are not how to choose friends, And obviously there's poverty at a general level anyway. So anyway, I could vast the topic out to another level, but answering your question.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to stop you there because I'm actually going to challenge you on that, because there is, in most schools, there is a curriculum called a PSHE, Personal Social and Health Education.
I'm familiar with that, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm an ex-teacher, and I used to teach all of those skills. I agree with you. It's 1 hour. It's 1 hour, I think, every 2 weeks, or 1 hour a week, or something like that. It's there, but you know, at the same time, what we've established is that we're trying to look at ours, who prepared us for adulthood. So if I could go on now to the next person who was wanting to speak about possibly where
Tanya.
Hi. Yeah, well, I understand to be honest, I do understand where the imam's coming from, because I was brought up vulnerable in poverty and didn't have the best upbringing. But I do believe it's all about the social circle you surround yourself with, even if you haven't had the greatest of upbringings. I think it's all about surrounding yourself with good people and trying to follow that path, and to be honest, helping each other, because in school, I mean, I was educated to university standard, but you know, I got a degree in that in the end. When I went back to school, really studied hard, and like, you know, I got a degree in things, but I just think the basic life skills weren't there. I was never taught how to cook. I was never taught how to manage anything really. And I had my daughter, I wasn't just left, you know, and I was just thinking, oh my God, I'm on my own with all of this, you know, and I had to learn myself. I think I was really the one that taught myself how to do things, because I had no choice but to, you know, I didn't have anyone else to fall back on. So I think as people, we don't realise how strong we can be when we need to be. Yeah.
Thank you.
And I think having faith and having belief and having good people around you keeps you strong and keeps you, you know, going.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anybody else with their hands up? Great. So I think what we've established is we've got our family and our school. We've got our community, be it that religious community or whatever community that you're in. And we've got actually our friends, and we've got our experiences. Now, for young people with SEND, like somebody said, you know, the chat did come up with young people. We said it's more difficult for obvious reasons, and that's what that's why it's actually now part of the statutory process in Chapter 8 of the Code of Practice. So if we go on to the next slide, I'll try and help you with that.
Tanya, is that your legacy hand, or you want to ask something?
Sorry, what was that?
Do you want to ask something, or it's your legacy hand? So
no, sorry.
Take out them.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Are we able to have the next slide, please?
Ramu?
Okay. So that chapter that I refer to, and the pathways, and they just enable us to remember that our SEND young children and young people have the same aspirations, needs and rights as all people. They help us to remember what a good life is for all young people. They help us to find out what the aspirations are of our children and young people, and to make sure that we are able then to put the right support in place. And they help us to develop educational targets through their Ahcp that link to their life outcomes and takes the young person towards those aspirations. So could I have the next slide, please? So this is a tool, PfA outcomes across the age ranges, and things that, I mean, some of you are here where you young people or don't have an Ahcp, but hopefully this will still be of help to you. But for those of you who have children with an Ahcp, it's about at that annual review process in their Ahcp, how you can look at the outcomes that are set and just make sure, just double check that their preparation for adulthood targets and what this might look like in a plan. Could we go to the next slide, please? So this is a tool. I've sent it out, but it's a massive tool. And what I've done is condensed it. And it's about, this is the first slide. I've gone through all the age ranges because I didn't know which age range I was going to be having to focus on, but I do now. But I've gone through all the age ranges and what that might look like for the 4 PfA areas. And just for this first one, there's nobody here with a child of 0 to 4, but I'll just explain now about what the sort of PfA outcomes and what might be a PfA outcome for all of the 4 areas, because you might not think, for how can you talk about employment for you know, a young person who's, you know, just been born, blah blah blah. So this is what it does. So you've got employment, the PfA outcome for employment, friends, relationships and community, independent living and good health across the top, and then going down from there for those age ranges, what some of those things might be. So it could be for employment, adapting to new environments, real world play such as nurses and doctors, for friends, relationships in the community, that sort of social interaction that, you know, you go around with the mums and babies and groups and things like that. Independent living, learning how to eat, you know, feed yourself, or just feeding and drinking, toileting, washing and getting dressed. That's an independent living skill between 0 to 4. And the good health, maintaining all of those checks that newborn babies and young children have, and the immunisations and making sure that they've got good diet and good food. They're all PfA outcomes at that age. And I always think it's really useful to show that earlier slide to actually say, well, actually, absolutely right, and how that can then help with the skills moving towards independent living. Could we have the next slide, please? So this is then, I'm going to skip this. So it's the same tool and what outcomes that might help for 5 to 7 year olds who are in primary reception to year 2. We don't have anybody here, but that's, you know, if you need to go back and look at that, some of the professionals, it's there. Could we go to the next slide, please? And then we've got some interested parties for this age group, which is the 8 to 11 year olds. So, for example, for employment, just talking about different careers and options generally in conversation, access to career-related role models. You can start to build a personal profile of what a young person's interests and ambitions are. And, you know, at that age, you might just have some school sessions or visitors on their careers. And I remember when my children were, you know, at that age, you know, they had these days when some parents went in to talk about, you know, what they did. Had you know, talks from various professionals coming in. They had sessions from, you know, firemen and nurses and doctors and things like that. With having you know, the aspiration for, you know, being part of your community and making friends and relationships, whether young people would be going to youth and after school clubs to make friends, knowing the local area and starting to know what's going on in their community, possibly being able to walk short distances alone and managing change. And with walking short distances alone, when we talk about those 4 areas, travel training comes into being travel trained is vital for young people for all those 4 areas. If you know how to be independent and how you can get about, if you're able to, it's really, really important. It's a project I'm working on in Peterborough at the moment to try and get travel training, you know, from the word go and throughout Peterborough. Independent living, where you've got sleepovers and residential trips. I know that's really hard when, you know, children go on their first one, and for those young people who might be in specialist care, it's about sometimes, you know, that respite care, you know, being away from home, cooking at school and home, understanding money, you know, about going to the shops and being able to pay. You can pay for snacks in school. Not much money transaction going on at the moment with COVID, but it's about that. Going shopping and moving about the school independently, and travel training and road safety. So with looking after their health, managing minor health needs if they have asthma or things like that, making sure their immunisations are up to date, understanding how to stay healthy. As an ex-food teacher, I know that was always the first lesson was, what is good health? Being able to articulate pain and health problems. Do you remember what I said about one of the reasons why young people with SEND have that poor outcome is because they're not able to articulate pain or any health problems. And it's important then that at this age that, they start being able, any age really, to be able to tell you, and understanding puberty, obviously, at that age. Can we have the next slide, please? Then the secondary, we've got some young people there, and it's the same thing there. If we look across, it's the 4 areas. You've got your subject option choices if you're in mainstream, but at every stage there's a different curriculum, and looking at it's the right curriculum for them. Any different career options. If a young person is thinking about higher education, the transition process needs to be planned from year 9 onwards. So there is, in the EHCP process, in year 9, that should be a really, really focused PfA. That's when PfA and EHCPs are really, really focused upon, to make sure those transitions are really, really looked at, and that they're looking at subject options as well. Possibly for planning for any sort of work experience or employment, work experience in schools, holidays and Saturday jobs, or if they still do work experience in schools. I know they do for some young people. It's very hard to do in school and manage, but often they do focus very heavily on young people with SEND if they're in a mainstream school. And I know that some of our special schools do have some work experience in-house, and then so vocational options, to try and build a vocational profile. I'm going to introduce you to that term, vocational profile, which I'm trying to get into schools at the moment, and for schools to use a vocational profile and to use a different vocational profile for some people, for some young people with SEND, because it is important that there's not just one vocational profile that just fits everybody, because not everybody fits into the same box. And we've got lots of examples of vocational profiles for SEND young people, which some of our schools are using, and I really want more schools to be using them, really. But you can do that with your young people, and if you know the term vocational profile, you can go and say, do they have a vocational profile? Can I have a look at it? And this will give you some links to some of the SEND vocational profiles, and you can try and say, is that appropriate? And if the school doesn't have a special one that you don't think is right for your child, you can know to sort of ask questions about it. Okay, young people at this age start having free time and making decisions on their free time. It drove me crazy with my 4 teenagers when that time came, because I thought they did nothing, but that's just part of being a teenager. And next thing, managing social media, all of those things, they have to be addressed, and it's things through the EHCP process. Some of your worries and being safe online, which all of everybody's worries, can be looked at and can be addressed, and it's part of that development of being independent and preparing for adulthood and belonging to groups. And it is difficult for some young people, especially those with around the autistic spectrum, who have difficulties making friendships, and that friendship and relationships. And it's not about telling them to go to a club or anything like that. It's about that training, about how you make friends, the sort of appropriate things to say, and how you keep friends, and how you don't, the things that you say and you don't say. And I always love, the updating programme for special educational needs. there's lots of examples there of where parents and some of the professionals are telling some of the young people who are going on dating about what you say and what's appropriate and how it's all rehearsed. And for some young people with SEND, it has to be rehearsed, and they have to learn it. It's not as natural as it is to many of us. And about being resilient and mental well-being, because there's a lot of knocks that young people, everybody takes through life, aren't they? But especially with SEND, about that. And independent living, travel training has come up again. Money, which we've discussed, making your own food, socialising unsupervised in their community, and the independent living skills. Good health, it's about sexual relationships and education. Immunisation, managing more complex health needs, because at 16 young people, that it's at 16 they transition, where they have to make their own appointments, and you have that doctor's surgery telling you, well, when you're trying to make an appointment for your child or young person at 16, that you can't do it at 16, and that's really difficult. Using the GP, and we've got a real push on annual health checks, and an annual health check is available for young people with SEND, and there's only a 30 to 40% take up. And if we can try and get young people to understand about the annual health check, and parents, and start going annually, it's where they can then screen for some of those in those areas that are nothing to do with SEND or disabilities, and to make sure that they are healthy. And again, looking after their mental health and well-being. Again, drug and alcohol's come into at this age, and making sure that they know about that and they're preparing for that, and being healthy online. Coming on to the next slide, please. Then we've got 16, 19-year-olds, where we've got some at school and some at post-16 providers. And again, they're those 4 areas. And if we look at we've got, won't go through some of the things we've already talked about, but employment pathways such as apprenticeships, traineeships, and supported internships. Now, there are supported internships are specialist programs for young people with SEND. And Peterborough is very, very good with their supported internships. Not many authorities are good on supported internships. Peterborough is fantastic, and our recent Ofsted, it was one of our successes. And 50% of young people on a supported internship, you have to have an Ahcp to go on one, is 50% of young people on supported internships end up in paid employment. And a supported internship is where they get support from people called job coaches, who are a bit like your support staff in schools or TAs in schools, who actually work with the young person and the employer, in that way that they would in school, until they are independent. And that's why it's so successful, that you get 50% of employers keeping young people on. It could be going on to further vocational academic qualifications, planning for A-levels or university if appropriate, CV writing. Everybody's got to have a CV if they're applying for a job, and knowing how to apply for jobs, and that broader support that is available from the local authority with that. And relationships and communities, new friendships, managing time, staying safe in the community, drugs and alcohol, volunteering, knowing your rights, and how to get help. That's a really, really important one for young people. And again, going through to independent living, managing bills such as mobile phones, managing potential income such as benefits. So some young people will be able to get benefits during this age. And then starting to actively plan future living arrangements and knowing what those options are. Mental capacity and decision making and understanding consent, that really comes into play during these ages. Managing your time again, and support from adult social care if appropriate. Then going down to health, taking responsibility for your health, for health appointments, managing the health transitions, because I think a health transition happens at, I think it's 16. Yeah, I think a health transition is 16. I think a social care transition, if appropriate, is 18. Staying physically healthy and active, and then understanding those relationships and those healthy relationships as well. And I think there's just one other slide for this. If you could move on to the next slide, please.
Elizabeth, can I ask you, because
yes, sorry, I can't see the hand, so please ask a question.
Yeah, we have on the chat one question. So the question is, can you go to the GP and request an annual health check at any age?
Yes, you can. And GPs, what we're trying to do is to make sure GPs are aware of the young people with EHCPs, so that they can actually chase them as well as relying on parents and young people to go and make an appointment. Was that the question?
There's another thing from Tanya as well.
Thank you. Yeah, Tanya.
I was just saying really in the chat that I found a lot of the parent, like Family Voice, for instance, Parent Carer Forum and other charities out there, give me the chance to prepare for adulthood, because I don't feel I was prepared even after leaving university, preparing like to be, you know, independent and things. And now, over volunteering for many years, I believe I, you know, much more independent and understand everything about time management, you know, and just managing day to day, you know, everything. So
doesn't it apply to all of us really?
Yeah.
You know, because, you know, if somebody who asked me who prepared me for all of those 4 areas, you know, like we discussed, somebody here, somebody there, some bits there, some bits there, some bits I didn't even know that I'd been prepared for. It just happens. And some bits, you know, where I think, oh, I'm not very good at that, or I look back at my children and think, oh, they're not very good at that. You know, I didn't realise I actually had to teach them. You know, you talk to them about, everybody's got friends and relationships all through life, you know, problems there, and you talk with your young children about best what to do. But actually, there is some really useful resources out there. And when you've got a young person with SEND, there's some really useful resources for SEND young people and how to approach that. And I think that's applicable to every parent, every, you know, young person. We try to make it, you know, available to young people to source themselves, and to all professionals, you know, to know, you know, that there's actually resources. Sometimes you need to be taught about sort of things like that, and time management. Exactly. Totally agree with you there. Are there any other points? Okay. So I go on to just the last one about, so this is our post-19, and this is an area that a lot of you actually, you know, I'm glad, you know, from the forum that we've got here, a lot of you are working towards this, and these are, you know, an EHCP can last for a young person until they're 25. Very few do, because as soon as the outcomes in a plan are met, then the plan is, you know, it's the wrong word, cease. I hate the word cease, because it means as if it's stopping and it's no longer applicable. It is no longer applicable, but actually it should be a moment of celebration, really, to say, actually, they've got there. You know, they don't need an EHCP. They're out in the community. They're doing this. You know, they've got a job. They're independent living. They've got good health. They're doing something, and they don't need a plan anymore. And it should be, you know, a better term than cease. But we have to have a focus on the 19 to 25-year-olds, because not enough focus has been on that, you know, across the SEND community. So it's consolidating and finishing formal learning. Seeing if there's any adult education or community learning out there, and what it is, completing the outcomes in their plan, knowing how to get support from a job centre, post-education, paid work or higher education, and understanding, you know, what benefits are available. And with a friend relationships in the community, understanding the local office. Now, the local office, that's the first term the local office has been used. And I wanted to make you aware of the local offer. It's another term I hate, but it came in with the SEND reforms, where the local offer is basically everything that is available to anybody in the community has to be on what's called our local offer, which is just a platform of information. And there is a specific area for SEND, and we've also got a specific area for PfA, which we're constantly updating and reviewing. And following the reforms, when we had to put everything on the local offer, what used to happen is that people, you know, professionals put stuff on, we identified what was needed, But there was never anybody there to review it. And now what we're doing is we're reviewing it, we're updating it, we're saying what's missing, we're getting young people, we're getting parents to say what's needed and to help us out with that. And not enough people know about it and not enough people use it. It's quite a difficult tool to use, to be totally honest, but I'm going to introduce you to the local offer in this session as well, so you as parents and professionals know. And we're trying to make young people be aware of, and I'm going to show you how we do that with young people as well. Again, that friends and relationships, volunteering can come into it at this age, and accessing adult social care. Independent living, arranging potential independent and supported living options. I'm going to go through that in a few more slides. Planning other living arrangements. Now this is, this must be a worry for all of you with SEND young people about where are they going to live, and what will your life be like as well, because it has impacted on your life as parents, and what it's going to be like and what that will look like and what help is available. And that's important that from very early on, you know about things like this. Oh, I think we've gone on. Can we just go back a bit? Thank you. Thank you. A short breakthrough in there. And then again, good health, transitioning to adult health services, GP, CAMH, and all the rest. Can we go on to the next slide, please? Are we able to go on to the next slide?
Ramu, are you there? Yeah, can we go to the next slide, please, if you don't mind?
Is there a problem?
No, probably Ramu is multitasking, so that's why.
Okay. As long as I haven't frozen, I just wanted to make sure. Thank you for bearing with us, everybody. But have a look, just have a look at this and get familiar with it. Are there any questions while we're trying to move on to the next?
That should be it. Oh. Hello?
Hello?
Ramu, is everything all right? Maybe we could use now that moment, just for the questions or for the reflections then, until they will sort out.
But it's just not.
Go back to the share.
Sharing screen, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Is it there? Okay. No. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we are here. We were here.
Yeah.
I think we will be the next.
That one?
Yeah, that was the one.
Hi, sorry, excuse me, can I ask?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, but when I click next, that's what comes up.
Yeah, no worries. Next time.
Elizabeth?
Yes?
When I click next, it's this video that keeps coming up.
That's fine, but we won't see the video. That's fine. That's the right slide.
Is this the right one now, currently on the screen?
I think that's the right slide.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now, somebody had a question, so just before.
No worries, I will ask next time.
Okay, thank you. Okay, now we're looking at your child or young person's EHCP. Now, with an EHCP, there's this thing called the golden thread, and it links to that section A, which as parents and with young people that you fill in. It's the non-statutory part where you put in with your child and with you, what your aspirations are for your child or young person, what their needs are, is generally in another section, their outcomes and what provision is there. And what we want is the aspirations that you put in section A going into what their outcomes and provision are. And we need to see more of that. And that is something called the golden thread. So in a plan, have a look at your child's plan and see whether there is a golden thread. So linking to what you've said or they've said are their aspirations and, their needs. The needs and outcomes generally link and the provision, but we're trying to make them more PfA focused. I'm going to sort of to what is an outcome. It's the benefit or difference made to an individual as a result of an intervention. So, and where I've got COP 9.6 relates to the statutory process, the code of practice that I keep referring to, and that's where it comes from. It's an outcome is the benefit or difference made to an individual as a result of an intervention. So you put interventions in place to have an outcome. And when we're trying to decide the outcomes in an EHCP plan, we need to ask what achieving an outcome would do for that young person, what it would give them, what it would do for them, and what it would make possible for them. So these are some of the tools you can use as parents, when you're looking at those outcomes. And I would strongly recommend that you take a bit of time before the annual review to think yourself, what is it? What would it give them? What would it do for them? And what would it make possible for them? To make sure that it's, a good outcome and what benefit or difference it would make to them. And I'm really quite passionate about that, and that you're aware of that, and you get to take ownership of that in your planning meetings. Can we go on to the next slide? Now, this is, I won't show the video because of time. Oh, there's a video there. It's about aspirations and making sure that you have high enough aspirations for your child or young person. And that's just a little video about that, which you can go back and play yourself. So I'm going to give you just a few examples of some PfA aspirations and outcomes and how that can be achieved. And this is where I think it might help you. So for employment, aspiration, it might be that you put in a plan in section A that when, or a child or a young person actually at this stage, when they leave education, but it could be actually very early, they want to work, they have an aspiration to work. Now, the outcome in a plan could read as follows, just examples. By June 2021, I would have identified which of my interests I would like to base my work experiences on, and these will be recorded in my vocational profile. Now, if you can get a vocational profile and work experience into a plan, then the school, if they're going to write that outcome, will have to deliver it. And if that's, you think that's really important, put that down. You can have more than one outcome. By July 2022, as another example, I will have completed 2 work experiences based on my vocational profile. So it's then helping us to try and get that vocational profile into schools for that young person, which I think is really, really important. And if we could go on to the next slide, please. So how these, okay, yeah. Is that the right order? Well, we'll go through it, whichever order. So,
yeah,
thank you. What are the implement steps towards these outcomes? Identify who will complete a vocational profile with the young person. So you can actually specify in a plan who's going to do that. It's no good saying they're going to do it. Who will actually do it with that young person? Some schools have specific staff to do it. Who will that be? Plan work experience during year 10 and identify any potential opportunities through networks or family and friends, because that's usually very useful, because it's very hard to actually get work experience placements. Complete work experience during year 11. At the year 11 annual review, plan Post-16 study programme, and in particular, the work experience element of the study programme. and the teacher to share her literacy, numeracy and language targets with the job coach so that her targets can be built into developing her work experience. Now, if your young person goes on work experience, it's really, really important that they're not just put into a work experience. And if they have SEND, that not just put into a work experience placement without some form of job coach, some form of support in the same manner of support that would be available in school. And a slight link towards, breaking down, tasks that needed to be done in a work experience placement. And that's vital to the success of, that experience. A bad experience, would be dreadful for the first time to go into work. We've got some really interesting views from young people, actually, which I'll go through later with you, about how we consult young people about work experience and things like that, and what they want and how it's been for them. And it's really, really interesting. Could we go through to the next slide, please? And then don't forget, this is an education, health and care plan. So it's not all educational targets. How can social care and how can health help? So when working on the vocational profile, he or she will choose from 3 photographs from relevant work settings when asked questions about their interests and hobbies. He or she will cooperate for 1 hour a week with a job coach or tutor to complete a vocational profile. And support needs for doing work experience will be identified with input from an occupational therapist if, for example, if that young person needs an occupational therapist. So that's where health can come in. Okay, can we go to the next slide, please? Then what friends, relationships and community can look like in an Ahcp plan. The aspiration for the young person might be, and as stated, it's got to be stated in that section A of the plan. Make sure all of this is really specific. To have friends, to be part of my community and have people who can help me have fun and get what I want in life. I mean, that's an aspiration for us all, really, isn't it? But, for some young people with SEND, it's absolutely vital. So the outcome that can be written in the plan, and this is where the golden thread comes in, is, for example, by December 2021, I'll be going out with friends at least twice a week. We will be going to things like the gym, swimming, walking, going to the cinema, music events or a club, but anything that, for your particular young person might be appropriate or they are interested in. Sometimes it's just, communicating at a computer club or, online gaming or something like that, but making friends. Okay, something like that. And if you could go to the next slide, please. And how some of the steps towards achieving those outcomes. So on the left-hand side, that's circle, that's a circle of friends or a relationship circle. Another term, as well as vocational profile, I'd like to introduce you to the term a circle of friends or relationship circle. So remember what I said about, are you worried about, you being the main support for your child or young person, and what, you can't always be it and you shouldn't always be it, and how can that circle widen and how do you do that? So in the middle there's Louis. Around there you've got the people who love Louis. I don't know whether Louis is a boy or girl, but it's mum, dad, any brother or sister, nana and papa. People who like me, my friends, and they've listed them, Jared, Rebecca and all that. And then people who are paid to know and help me. And that's the doctor, another doctor, Mr. Jake and Miss Stewart. They might be support workers at school, they might be carers, they might be social workers or something like that. So that's that circle of relationship circle about who you can call on for certain things. And, that's a useful thing to just have. To identify young people with similar interests at school, in the family or community. And again, young people might need help with that. Identify possible support for doing things together, such as a personal budget, organise support, what current provision is there, and identify an activity that's most likely to be successful. Don't be going down a route where a young person is not interested. I mean, some young people do need to go out of their comfort zone and to just try things, but try and start off with something you know they're going to be, it's not going to be necessarily out of their comfort zone. Plan an activity, do the activity and review it. And it's the same, that's what we do in education. We plan a lesson, we do it, we review it and try and improve it. If it didn't go well, go back there, plan another activity, slightly change how, you know, you get them there, or you support them as they go in. Sometimes they need support for 10 minutes going in, or just going through a door, and then you pull back and things like that. Just think about all of those things to try and support, you know, building their independence around friends, relationships and communities. If you could go into the next slide, please. So, and how that can go into other areas other than education. So the young person will be able to identify other young people that they know from school and elsewhere using photographs by pointing on request. They might need the support with advice from a speech and language therapist if somebody is non-communicative. They might be able to self-regulate when engaging with the activity if they've got social and emotional difficulties. And that might be strategies as suggested by a psychologist or an occupational therapist. Again, these are how, you know, health and social care can be involved with supporting that young person. And he or she can use their personal budget to recruit a personal assistant who shares their interests, and who'll be able to support in the social activity. See whether we can go down that personal budget route if needs be. Can we go on to the next slide, please? Independent living. So the aspiration that you've put in section A might be something like to live in my own home with the support I need. Very rarely see that in an aspiration, but think about whether that is needed. And the outcomes you might see in an EHCP plea, I would have thought about and have some ideas about who I might want to live with and where I want to live. I have a clear idea of how I want to be supported. I'll be using money when buying food each week. And I'll have a clearer understanding of the key things I need to do to be safe at home, online and in the community. And when I know where I'll be living, and be able to transfer this learning to my new home. So be able to those transferable skills and be supported in that. Can we move? They're just some ideas about what might be an independent living PfA outcome. So if we go on to the next slide, please. And what are the steps towards doing this? I would have visited several types of housing, so I know how they differ. I'll know what type of support I'm entitled to when I leave education. Some people do go into supported living before leaving education. I'd have stayed away from home at least twice. I'd have talked to people who I think I'd like to live with, to see if they'd like to share with me. I've done a series of practical tasks at home and in school to show and do some simple housekeeping and budgeting. I'd have completed a personal safety course and show that I understand what I can do to keep safe. Now, these will be appropriate or inappropriate depending on that young person. I'm going to introduce you to something really special in Peterborough called our Peterborough Smart Flat, where it's about technology-assisted care and how technology can assist young people with living, you know, some sort of supported or independent living. And you can go and book a visit. You can do it yourselves. You don't, you know, you can book it and bring, you know, go along with your young person, because it's not just applicable to them when they're living by themselves. It's applicable in your home now. If you think, you know, could I have something that helps me, you know, at home with my young person at any age? And I've just at the bottom, you can book a visit. That's the number. And that's the link to it. And I'm going to show you in another PowerPoint about how you do that as well. And you'll have that as a resource as well. Could you go to the next slide, please? There's some useful links. Some of the tools and the resources I've talked about are some useful links that you can go on to and download or refer to. Can we go on to the next slide, please? Now, are there any questions at this stage? I haven't got any. Oh,
Tanya, you raise your hand. Tanya, I can see her hand is still raised, so I'm not sure whether do you have any question?
No, sorry, I haven't raised my hand. Sorry.
Sorry, Tanya, I'm always doing that. Well, I hope you found that last session useful. And it's just something you can look at and refer to try and help you, to put those outcomes in that you think, your child or young person might need, or to help for those professions here, might be able to help, pinpoint or signpost young people to, or parents to help them. Now, we do a lot of co-production with young people. I'm a great believer, and I'll just give you an example of how, I do a lot of, I'm the chair of the PfA steering group in Peterborough, and we have lots of groups where we've tried to address the PfA agenda, and not many people know about it, and it's about educating, just as, we're doing with, Family Voice here and the seldom heard communities. And when you're around a table with professionals, and you're trying to address an issue, it could be to do with employment, it could be to do with independent living, or anything like that. You've got professionals around the table and they've got these ideas about, we need to do this, we need to do that. We always have a rep from Family Voice, and we always have a young person. And the young person we generally use is Travis, who's our access champion. And once you get the voice of families, or you get the voice of a young person telling you their experience, it can put you to shame about what you thought would work and what you thought wouldn't work. So, for example, on the local offer, we have to put as many resources as we can. And Travis comes up and says, well, young people can't access that. Young people now, they want a 2 to 3 minute video. They won't read through anything, one, for accessibility and all the rest, too many words, boring as hell. They want a 2 to 3 minute video, and they've got a span of possibly 30 seconds. And if you haven't got it across in 30 seconds, then, that this is what we want. And you can see it, can't you? Because all young people, who are able to, love going online. So we've been trying to do, lots of information available as short, snappy videos, and make it more visual. Whereas we as professionals might do lots of, you've got to put this information in, lots of words, lots of pictures, lots of videos, too much for young people. So this is how we consult with young people to produce activities, and how they can help us, and how we can then help them in planning for their future. So we ask them some questions, they give us some feedback, then we go back and try and answer those questions. And I'm just going to show you some of the clips from a presentation that's gone down really, really well. It's something we have in-house activities, in-house events 3 times a year, and we started them just before COVID. So we've had to do everything in a different format during COVID, and we had to respond to our in-person event and respond to young people. So we did it through a PowerPoint that was sent out to schools, Family Voice and everything. And we've got another event on the 6th of December. This one's a Zoom meeting where we're actually getting young people on Zoom. We were advised not to go in person yet, but we're hoping for an in-person event in March and then June, where we get the views of young people, and then we actually make sure they know about PfA, so they take ownership of their independence, and as well as telling families, to know that they've got the opportunity for this as well. So I'm just going to show you this. Can we go to the next slide, please? And it's in those 4 PfA areas. As I said, we had a December event online, and as a result of that, young people asked for help with how to use the local offer website, learning about the importance of their annual health check, how travel training could help them get out and about in their community, how technology could help them live more independently, and how a supported internship could help them get a job. So this is what we had to give and feedback to them. So if we go to the next slide, please. Now, this is available online. We can send it to you. There's a voiceover there, which, on this left-hand corner there, where there's a sort of speaker with those things. If you press on that, there's a voiceover, and it's a voiceover by one of our young people as well. So it's a young voice. It's not an old, an older voice like mine, which might bore them as well. So could we go to the next slide, please? So they wanted to know about the local offer. When we consulted with them, only 12% of young people knew about it. And of those 12% who knew about it, only 5% have actually used it. So we need to make that, to know where they need to go for help. It's a one-stop shop where you can go to find about anything in Peterborough. It's not just send. So if we could go to the next slide, please. So there's a video here about how to use the local offer. Now, we didn't have a video, but we don't need to use it. I don't need to play the video actually, but we gave this as a resource to schools to try and get young people to be, have sessions on, and they had to break it down into all the sessions because they do take a long time. So that video shows them how to use the local offer. So it's important really, and actually it would be worth playing. Can we click on it so that you as Family Voice and you as young people know how to use the local offer? Oh, can we put the speaker on? Will that work? Probably won't, but now I'll probably stop it because the speaker's not working, but it's a voiceover to show you how the local offer works. So basically you go onto Peterborough City Council and you put in local offer, and you've got these visual icons. So that's health, that's education. That's money matters. And then once you've clicked on it, on the side, lots of links come up, and they're the really useful links. And that's how you click on those links to get to what you want. Can we stop the video now? Because I think, because there's no voiceover on this one. Thank you. And can we go to the next slide, please? Now, can I just ask you, as a group, just put your hands up, and can somebody count for me how many people have actually used the local offer as parents or professionals?
Can you raise your hands, please, if you don't mind? Hard to see.
Or type in the chat or something.
Yeah.
We have one no.
How many people have put their hands up?
One.
So the main answer, I see no.
Scott said,
one said I have.
About PfA. That's what Scott said. And who is this? Terry? No. Tanya? No, sorry. Who is that? Julia? Julia, I wanted to know. That was my question.
That was my question.
Ramu said, I have. Yeah, those are the people I think so nowadays. Judith, how about you?
Me, not one.
You know, yeah? Snow, no as well. I think the majority said no.
Well, that's the same. You've probably got the same, results then as young people. And if I could just, it might be useful to have a session with Family Voice about the local offer. But really, if you want to know anything, try going on it. So just put local offer Peterborough in your search, and then it will come up with those pictures. And then click on a picture, or just type in another word. If it's to do with education, health and care plan, put that in. If it's to do with personal budgets, put in send. And there's a separate section on send, there's a separate section on PfA, where all of these resources that, that I've referred you to should be available too. As I said, we're not saying it's an easy to use site, but the resources are there, and you would have to go and keep using it to get familiar with it. Now, because with young people, we gave them a challenge because this was an online resource, we couldn't meet them. we asked them to go onto the local offer for young people and see if they could find information about a college course, finding a new hobby or looking for a job. And then we said, you know, were you successful? Did you get the information used to try and get them to be using the local offer independently? So that, you know, again, they'd have the skills to know, one, that there is a local offer and what that local offer meant. And that local offer really means, it means these are the services and support we are offering to you as a community. Now, it's not just about SEND, it's about anything, you know, but there is a SEND section which would be really, really useful to parents and young people. So that is there. So I'd strongly recommend you know, put some time, you know, when you're sitting on a train or something, and, you know, or a bus, or, you know, when you've got 5 minutes watching the TV, to just get used and familiar to it. That'd be really useful. Thank you. Could we go to the next slide, please?
Oh, wrong.
So young people wanted to know more about the annual health check. So 28% of our young people said that they'd heard of an annual health check, and 11% said they'd actually been to one. Now, NHS target for young people or anybody attending their annual health check is 70 or 75%. So we're trying to, you know, support that because of how important, you know, it is. And then our health colleagues gave us a really funny video, which is the next slide, to just tell young people about the importance of going to their annual health check and taking ownership of that. Again, there's a clip there to it on the local offer as well. And the question there, why are annual health checks important? And we'd go through and say, you know, it's important that you're able to tell somebody when you feel ill, or when you're not feeling well, who's the first person you would speak to? You know, it could be the next person next to you. It could be somebody in school. It could be your parent. It could be your friend. What do you do with it? When you go to the doctor, how do you make an appointment and things like that? So if you go to the next slide, please.
Yeah, Elizabeth. Yeah,
yes.
Before you continue, I just want to remind all of you guys that the original plan was 1.5 hours, but I can see that we exceed that one. But because of this topic is very, very, very important, and Elizabeth is doing a wonderful job. I would like you guys to bear with us until we complete this one, please. Yeah. Thank you. You can continue.
Do you want me to continue?
Yes, please.
Are you sure?
Was just wanted to remind others, you know, because it was 1 hour originally, but definitely because this is very, very important. We cannot.
Sure.
Yeah, definitely, and you definitely did a wonderful job. So yeah, if you could continue with it, that will be absolutely great. Anyway.
Thank you so much. Again, we gave young person a challenge. You know, and can you see how she's a bit of a goofy nurse, and it's a bit of a comic sketch because, you know, we are talking to young people here, so it's, you know, it's just taking young people through what an annual health check, what's going to happen at your annual health check, because, you know, a lot of young people like to know beforehand, so you know, they're calm about it and they know what they're doing. And it's done at the GP surgery. Okay, so it's a GP appointment. Right, next slide, please. Oh, we won't play the video actually, because I think we'll be here for 2 hours if that, but that's there. But you see, it's all, you know, quite young person related. It's and it's just about a young person getting up and somebody coming and helping them to get to an annual health check and things like that. The challenge,
we can share it with them at the end of the program.
Yeah. You know, if you could share this with everybody, they can play. So basically, the slide before that was a challenge for young people to actually make their annual health check, and that meant, you know, being supported with, you know, how do you pick up the phone? What's the phone number? Do you know the phone number of the doctor? What is likely to happen? And you know what happens at a doctor's surgery when you get the receptionist. What are you going to say? I'd like to book my annual health check, and rehearsing it. And what will happen when they get there. So it's about breaking things down in a systematic way so that young people, you know how to do it. Again, then you've got, this is quiz time and role play. At what age would your first annual health check take place? And can you make your own appointments when you're 16? And the answers are first annual health check should take place, I think it's year 9, and you can make your own appointment when you're 16. And then again, now it's your turn. We tried to get some role play, phoning the surgery, role play with a friend, and then again that transport training. How will you get to your doctor's surgery? So we're trying to go beyond, yeah, your parents will take you, to actually, you know, when you're older, how will you get to the doctor's surgery? You know, some people are reliant on, you know, taxis. How do you book a taxi? How do you make sure somebody knows about it? And all those scenarios we're trying to go through to just equip young people with knowing about and practicing that. So the next slide, please. Travel training, all important travel training. You can't meet any of the PfA targets, I think, unless, you know, people know how to get out and about independently. So 42% of our young people said they didn't know how to get out and about in Peterborough, which isn't too bad. However, 64% said they'd like some help in becoming more confident in getting out and about in the city. And Travis, who's our Access champion, was supposed to speak at this conference, and he's a fantastic champion for young people. He came through the system, he went to Marshfields and went to City College, and now they employ him as an Access champion and travel trainer. And when he's in meetings, he has this fantastic chat where he talks about peer support when he's doing travel training with young people. And he says, you see, if they want to go to the pub, you see, I chat with them and say, what pub are you going to? Then we talk about what bus you go on. Then we've got this peer support network where when they're on the bus, we check they're on the bus. You know, when they're going home, we check that the bus has come. If it's late, what to do. And if they need to catch a taxi, which taxis are, you know, are the safe ones, or which taxis, you know, you can get a wheelchair into, or, you know, are disability friendly and the ones we would recommend, all of that. And it's much better coming from a young person with experience. And it's also about that peer support, because, you know, when your children go out and about, you know, send or not, but you want to know that they've arrived safely and they've come home safely and they're safe. And it's, you know, equally important with send young people that they've got that peer support. And, you know, parents aren't the first port of call all the time, so they've got that peer support as well is really, really important. We're trying to, you know, to bring that in. We're trying to get a travel training program, as I've said before, across Peterborough that is uniform, that everybody uses from an early age, and then at certain transition points it's upgraded and get, you know, it's really important for families and parents to be confident as well and to involve parents in that, you know. So that's something that we're doing at the moment as well. If we could go on to the next slide. And I think the next slide is just a picture of Travis and what he was going to present. It's a video. That's Travis there on the right. We won't do it actually, because I think we are short of time, but that's there for young people. He's going to do the same at our event in December, because I think travel training is really, really important, you know, even if it's only on occasion, or even if it's only knowing how to, you know, to phone the right taxi if you need a wheelchair or whatever sort of support you need. So if we could go on to the next challenge, would you like to receive travel training and watch this video? We want to know, you know, again, keep a record of how many young people, because the trouble is every time we do this sort of consultation with young people, it can be a different cohort, and it's more likely to be a different cohort. So you sort of have to repeat this and just double check that what young people want, we're giving and we're providing that information to. If we could go on to the next slide, please. Independence. So 40% of young people said that they had talked to somebody about where they'd like to live when they're older. So this is introducing them to the smart flat and how technology can help them when they're older. If we could go to the next slide, please. And this is the one that I referred to earlier, the Peterborough Smart Flat that you can go and visit. And it's a fantastic resource in Peterborough. So it's a flat that's with the latest technology that can help you live more independently. You can visit one in Peterborough. It's got displays and gadgets, all of those, lots more about kitchen, you know, surfaces going up and down, sort of cookers and, you know, technology that, you know, they fit in beautifully with. And you can go and book a visit. Can you go to the next slide, please? Because I think I've got the links there for you. Because you can go, you don't have to bring a young person. I think, if you can, but, if you want to book a visit, that's what it looks like. It's at Kingfisher Court in Peterborough. And there's the telephone number or the email. I don't know what they're doing through COVID. I'm sure they're still doing it, but, it would be COVID safe and everything like that. The only thing I'd say is if you're looking for independent living, and when you look about what schools to look for, any sort of things like that, there is a booklet that's produced by Peterborough, but when you look at it, it's all pictures of old people in wheelchairs and care homes. And what we're trying to do is work on, something just a little bit more user-friendly for young people who are thinking of what's available, where there's trendy, colour schemes and trendy settings and things like that. Because there needs to be more for young people. That's without a doubt, there needs to be more available, and we're working on that. But there's also, when you're looking, there needs to be better pictures. But I think the smart flat would be a really good, and everybody I know that's been has sung it to praises. So I'd strongly recommend you go and have a visit now if it's appropriate. Can we have the next slide, please? And they know about it and they can do that themselves. They do it at college. When they're at college do visits with them. And this is that book about independent living, really. There's a guide for preparing for adult life. That's the PfA guide. And it will help you about changes that could happen as you get older and finding a place to live. And then these are the questions we wanted to know. Did they find it useful? And is there anything else that they wanted to know that wasn't in there? Okay, that was their challenge then. So if you could go on to the next page. And again, supported internships. So 97%, is really interesting. 97% of young people consulted said they'd like to get a paid job in the future. However, only 39% knew about supported internships. So it's about how it's a course. A supported internship is a course at college, and it's generally a one-year course. And they generally transition to college, and the college gets to know them, and they then identify that they're suitable for a supported internship placement, and then they try and match them with an employer. So that's how it works. And then they have job coaches, as I've said. So a job coach is somebody that works with a young person and their employer to support them in that workplace. And as I said, there's a 50% success rate, which is the national average, but not a lot of authorities locally have got that support in place. So we're really lucky here, and we're really proud of it. So if you could go on to the next slide, please. So this is a video from Rachel Morris, who's a Paralympic athlete. We won't play it now, but it's about aspirations to be employed and what happened, what's her story. And if you could go to, and again, young people and parents do need aspirational stories, what is achievable. And it's important that they have confidence and they have high aspirations, and those high aspirations are kept up, when you have setbacks. So these are just some things that are available. If you could go to the next slide, please. And this is what is a supported internship, and that's a professional telling a video about what is a supported internship. And did you know that 50% of, I've told you that, 50% at Peterborough College go on to get a paid job. If you could go on to the next slide, because I think it's a video of a parent and from a parent's perspective of how support, on the original consultation document, there was a video of a parent actually and her views and a young person on a supported internship and their views of it. And that's it. That's the end of my presentation. When you've got more questions that you might want to throw at me. So I hope you've learned a bit about that and how it can be incorporated in their Ahcp, and what is also, for some of you wanted to know what was available, and hopefully that's helped. Oh, thanks, Scott. I've got some chats there. Sorry it's gone on so long, and thank you so much for your patience as well.
Usman, you are muted.
Elizabeth, thank you so much. It's not a problem at all, because this topic, like I said, is very, very important, particularly for parents, carers. So honestly, we really appreciate having you here and everyone on board. Thank you so much for the wonderful presentation. It is really useful, you know, very, very useful. Yeah. So
thank you.
Yes, I have one question, please.
Yes.
Yeah, go on. Thank you.
The thing is, you said to make, like, our children need to make friends and they need to know how to do that. But how they will make friends when social services just can't give this opportunity to do, because we just have cancellation every week. And for example, my daughter can't still go and try this, I forgot this living, when they go and live, I forgot this name, sorry, with somebody else in the houses. Lion Garden, or do you know this place in Peterborough? For example, we don't have space at all there, and we don't have opportunity to make friends on Saturday or Sunday or whatever days, because they just cancel. We can't use any carer to help us to use our 6 hours per week, like whatever we have, like short break. Yeah.
So they're cancelling the short breaks because of, is it
the sport courses are cancelled now, and I really thank you for the local offer information. I will have a look what courses you have there, because really it's very important to know where we can go with children after school or on holiday and make friends, for example.
Yes. Yeah, it's absolutely important. Yeah, firstly, I'll point you to the local offer. And secondly, I would go back to the social worker and give her that exact question and say, you know,
yeah, they just say we don't have time and we don't have carers now. It's a big problem now.
Yes, but my understanding is that, well, there's a shortage of workers everywhere, but I think it is hitting the care sector. Right. My suggestions are, what would you do as a parent? So it's about the short breaks as well. But if that's not happening, and I can't make comment on what's happening in social care or that, because it's not my avenue of expertise, and it wouldn't be right for me to do so. But I do recognise, you know, that is a problem. Is there anything, if they can't do it, could you ask them the question, what would you suggest? What can we do? Is there anything that, if they're going to be going there, but for some reason they can't, can they set up a Zoom chat where they can go online and have a chat and introduce people, or just see people, whatever, you know, whatever means of communication is available to them? Can something happen online? And if not, try and do that yourself as a parent, to try and find somebody who might be going there, so that when your young person goes to that place, or see whether the social worker can set something up. So, you know, even as parents, you can set it up. You know,
I try.
Oh, right.
And the second thing was, okay, you talked beautifully, and it's fine, it's understood, but my child still can't pull her trousers, and wipe her bottom.
Yeah.
What exactly I need to think about adulthood?
Yeah, so there are certain things that would be applicable to some young people and certain things that wouldn't. So it's about, you know, I've forgotten the age of your child actually, but is that ever likely to happen, and who's helping that young person with it? And if that's not applicable, and you'll always know that, you know, your child or young person will always need that support, you know, it's other independent stuff about what choices are being given to your young person, and how is that means of how is somebody communicating with that child or young person about what they want.
Okay, so
and how they can become,
what information and from where I need to look for this question, how my child will be in the adulthood, how she will live without me, and who could help her. That is a big question.
Yeah, and that might be that, those supported living options, you would need to know, go to the school that the child or young person is at. I don't want to know, any information because it's being recorded, so we don't want too much information.
Yeah,
but go to the school, and schools are really, really good at signposting, and social care, your social worker or your child social worker should be able to, show you. But as well as that, in that link that I gave you, that PowerPoint, the young person's consultation, there's a link then to all of the lists of independent living or supported living options that are available. And we've got some young people who, around about 18, 19, go into supported living, into bungalows, by themselves with carers or with other young people. Some people plan later. It depends on individual circumstances, but, that should be planned. And that is done when they transition into adult social care. And and go through with your social worker and have that chat and say, I would like to be reassured and to have more information about this. And you've got that tool that I've given you, and you could go through that tool, some of the questions that are on there, is this applicable, what will happen here, what as a prompt for you that might happen. And again, if your child does have an EHCP, you can ask those questions at the annual review as well, and how are we planning for that.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, Julia. Any question, please? If you have any question, you can throw it away now. Imam.
Yes. Hi there. Elizabeth, thank you very much for your wonderful presentation. Very detailed, very informative. I come back to what I alluded to early on about, where do we stand in terms of, obviously we have children who are unwell, autistic, etc., and in many life-challenging situations. But at the same time, a lot of these children come from particular communities and backgrounds. So my question is really, where does religion, culture, spirituality fit into this, which is a huge part of their identity? And I think it's important because a lot of inequalities, health inequalities, which come about at a very early age, which are also coupled with misunderstandings and conflations and misinterpretations of religion, culture, and spirituality. So I suppose what I'm really asking is, where does that element of informing the process and inclusivity come into it? Because I mean, that's something I'd be more than happy to support if need be within the Cambridge and Peterborough area.
I mean, it's a statutory policy that we do through the process, and it is an inclusive policy. It comes from government. But from the point of view is are you sort of saying, perhaps people in your community that wouldn't go down the process of, they'd look after their young children with, or young adults with, who have special needs, but they wouldn't want it, in that old-fashioned sense, identified, put a label on, and then get a plan. They wouldn't want to go through that process. Is that what you're sort of saying?
That's part of what I'm referring to, Elizabeth. I mean, thank you very much for analogizing it in a better way. But also, you're right. So there's that taboo and stigma. But that's a huge issue that you see, because part of that, whilst there's home caring going on, that's very honourable. It's brilliant, of course, but it's not always giving them access to all what's out there.
Exactly.
And that's where I suppose what I'm really trying to put an offer to yourself, really, or whoever you deem appropriate, is as an imam, as a Islamic scholar, and somebody who works in mental health within the Cambridge and Peterborough Foundation Trust, I'm more than happy to support that process in terms of education and awareness, presentations, etc. So obviously it's not something we have to, complete right now, but I'm just putting it out there. Maybe we can get in touch if you deem it appropriate.
I think it would be great, really, because I think what would be really useful if you were on our PfA, one of our PfA groups, and through that you could have a voice, the voice just as you're saying now, and then we could all try and help. All we can say from a statutory point of view is everything is available on the local offer, and then you are aware, and it's how you then can bring it to your community, or how you could help us say, how can that happen? How can this is what's needed? How can that happen? And see whether we can facilitate it in that way. Does that sound like?
Brilliant. No, that sounds good. And thank you very much for your generosity and giving me confidence in this, because obviously a lot of things are out there. You're quite right. Hence my initial, I'll keep it very brief, early on, what wasn't a critique per se. I suppose it's more of a frustration because whilst lots of services are out there, many people are not accessing them. And it's not just my community. There's people from the Roma, the Polish community, Lithuanian communities. It's about bridging the gap of information. That's what I'm really trying to get at. Yeah.
And I think this is exactly what this forum is about. It's the seldom heard communities, which is always, it's always, as well as the seldom heard communities, it's the seldom heard child as well, and making sure that voice is heard, really.
Absolutely brilliant. Thank you. Well, I think I'll be in touch then, if that's okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, Elizabeth.
And my emails was, and the phone number were there. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Imam. This is why we organize this event anyway, or this online meeting, for all of you to benefit from this. I'm glad to hear that you really benefited, and all of you guys benefited from this. Massive thanks to Elizabeth. Honestly, you did a wonderful job. This is really commendable, honestly. Yeah. If anyone got another question, please, before we wrap up, before I pass it to my colleague Judith to say something. Is any question there, please? It looks like everybody's all right. Judith, it's over to you now, please.
So thank you very much to everyone for today's session, and special thanks to our speaker Elizabeth for her very, very informative and detailed presentation. So thank you very much, Elizabeth. Kind reminder also to everyone to complete the feedback form after the session, because giving your feedbacks for us is very, very vital to Family Voice Peterborough in helping us to be able to secure funding to run more of these sessions. So our next meeting is face-to-face meeting, get together at the 2nd of December at Goldhay Center. 11:30, 1:30. So please come and join us. Everyone is very welcome to attend. And invites are already sent. But if you didn't receive the invite yet and you would love to attend that event, so please contact me by email, judita@familyvoice.org, or just general Family Voice email. Please use for that, because the registration in advance is needed for that event. So thank you very much for today, all of you, and I'm looking forward to seeing all of you at the 2nd of December at Family Voice Peterborough Get Together event. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Judith. And thank you, all of you. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you so much. Million thanks to Elizabeth. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
you so much.
Bye.
Bye.